All right, good morning, everyone. We'll wait a minute or two just to let some more people in. We have people from all over the world attending today, and I was speaking to the team earlier. There's obviously people from the UK and America. It's a bit early in America, but there were still quite a few people coming in from America and Canada. And there's also some latecomers from Australia. But there are a lot of people obviously from the UK. But what was interesting is there were people from Finland, from Norway, basically countries all over. So I see people are coming in. Welcome, Andre, and Assem, and Farid, Lucy, Matt, Sagar. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Sagar or Sagar, and Willem and Clifford. How is everyone today? Justin, you keeping well?
Thank goodness, all well, and yourself?
Good. You're on the other side of the world to me. Is it getting nice and hot where you are?
Yeah, summer's around the corner. Looking forward to some sun and a bit of the beach in December holidays.
Right, and Izzy, you obviously on the other side of the world. You're in the UK compared to Justin being all the way down south in South Africa. I guess it's getting a bit cold where you are.
A little bit. It's not raining today though, so that's a rare one. But we should hopefully we'll get some snow soon.
Right, Lucy and Karen as well. Welcome. People are coming in. So I think it's now 2 minutes past, and I'm very excited to be able to spend some time today with both my colleague Justin and Izzy. So a little bit about ourselves first, and then I'll introduce Izzy, and then we'll obviously move into a discussion about the questions about AP and why companies have considered moving over from other systems over to the DOKKA platform. And then after Izzy gives his views and his thoughts on it, Justin will be doing a quick demo for us. Obviously, if there's any questions, you can always put them into the Q&A, and we'll have some time right at the end where we'll be able to answer all the questions for you. And so it's going to be an exciting day today. We've got 40 minutes now ahead of us. So to start off, so DOKKA is an AP platform, and we specialize in collecting and processing and archiving documents. And the idea is that we're trying to really streamline the process for bookkeepers and accountants and financial teams. And what we're trying to do today, together with Izzy, is really unpack like, why have accountants such as Izzy decided to move from other platforms? So what did they like about the DOKKA platform that made them move over? What potentially didn't they like about the other platforms? Really trying to unpack this and give a transparent look at the AP industry. It's a crowded space. It's difficult to know the features always. It's really difficult to compare apples to apples. So I have my colleague Justin here with us. Justin, maybe introduce yourself just for a minute or so. You've told us about the weather in Johannesburg. What else can you tell us about yourself?
Thank you. So, as Eric said, I'm Justin. I act as one of the account execs with DOKKA. And yeah, I've been with the company for nearly close to 3 years, and it's been a very interesting experience to see, first of all, how the whole AP process has changed and how far DOKKA has advanced from when I began to where we are now. And yeah, just really looking forward to showcasing the platform, to learning more about Izzy and, as you said, his experience on the switchover, and to hopefully to see how we can assist a lot of the people that have joined us today that are possibly looking into other platforms and switching over.
Great, thanks, Justin. So my name's Eric, and I've been with DOKKA from the beginning. I get involved in the different marketing and business activities of the company. And I'm very honored now to introduce Izzy. So Izzy started off as a trainee doing his trainee accounting articles at Harris Rosenberg. That was 15 years ago. And after that, he moved as an accountant, a senior accountant, an SME accountant, an auditor in different businesses. And it became full circle because in 2018, he went back to the company that he was previously in, Harris Rosenberg. So he's in the UK and Izzy's an accountant. Izzy, it's really good to have you here. And so the first question from our side is, what made you get into the accounting space and how long have you been in the accounting space? And tell us a bit about yourself and the business that you're involved with.
Yeah, it's good to be here. So what drew me as an accountant really was the opportunity to get very involved in people's businesses and partner up with them, help them along the way. Throughout the last, say, 20 years since the millennium, compliance, certainly in UK, has kind of got in the way of these relationships and made it more of a burden to be an accountant. Although what we've found over the last decade, and certainly over the last 5 years, is that technology has come and given us that space back to be able to help accountants. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what drew me to be an accountant. So as Eric said, I started off at Harris Rosenberg, moved on elsewhere to get external training, and then came back in 2018. So Harris Rosenberg is a family firm. It's our family firm. It's my dad's firm. And when I came back, I came back to transform it from being a firm that was stuck back in the 80s to be a firm on the forefront of tech.
Great. I think that Justin has a couple of interesting questions to get the conversation going. So I'll pass over now to Justin and let's see where this conversation goes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Izzy, I know that you have done a ton of work digitizing your entire accounting practice. What was your approach to improving your tech setups and what obstacles did you have to overcome? Can you maybe walk us through that journey?
Sure. So the approach for tech setup is, first and foremost, one change at a time. So basically, if you do more than one change at a time and something doesn't go to plan, you don't know what's gone wrong, and it's very difficult to unravel it. So that's the main thing. The biggest obstacles when making changes actually are people. But through the changes that we've made, we've had to have a change. It's resulted in a change of people within the firm. So the only one who's still there from then is still my dad. But I suppose in every sort of thing, it's people are going to be the challenge in the way. People have got to be with you on it.
So maybe Justin, before you jump into your next question, let's unpack that a bit more. Why do you feel that people need to be, I guess, re-educated or changed? What was the actual challenge you had, and what was the solution you found?
The challenge is that some people often like to be stuck in the way that they've been doing things for many years. So people need to be educated of why the new way is better, how it can improve their day-to-day life, how it can improve the way they work, and what benefits are in it for them. I mean, that's not to say that you can't change people. There definitely is opportunity for people to change. It happens to be in this circumstances, those people were approaching retirement age, and it was kind of, if it wouldn't have been that, they would have retired anyway. But I definitely do think it is possible to encourage change within people once they see. I mean, certainly with my dad, seeing the changes in tech, he's definitely adopted to it and everything, and he sees the benefits on a day-to-day what it's done.
So I guess it really comes down to mindset, because I know that we're both thinning out a little bit on top of our heads. So it's not that we in our 20s. So when you're talking about a new generation or a new way of thinking, I guess you'd speak about mindset, because if I look at your LinkedIn profile, you actually self-describe yourself as a part of the new younger generation of accountants who speak the language. And so I guess it really comes down to mindset. And I guess it's like this both for accounting and for technology, that you either embrace the new way that the world is starting to work, or unfortunately, you get left behind. Do you think that's an apt description?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's going. The world is moving one way. Technology is taking it is going to go the way it's going to go, whether you like it or not. So if you don't join it, then yeah, you are going to basically fall behind. Definitely, without doubt.
Right.
I guess AI really is the way of the future, which I think brings me on to my next question is, from past experience and past conversations, shall I say, is that I know that you've worked with a number of different AP automation systems. Can you maybe walk us through and elaborate on why you ultimately have chosen DOKKA as your AP solution, and what you think sets DOKKA apart to those other platforms that are out there on the market?
So there is sort of quite a bit of a choice to choose from when choosing an AP automation system, and when you're in the market looking for one, you'll obviously notice that there's some that make a lot of noise, so to speak, and offer quite a number of features. But when you actually go into those features, you can often see that the features are more of a marketing technique to draw you to the system than actually have any substance, because sometimes those features don't have any practical use on a day-to-day basis. What I've found with DOKKA's AP system is that the features that they put forward when looking at the software and doing demos are actually features that have substance. So there's certain features, say the point of being able to pull up the email that's come through with the document. So sometimes you get through an invoice and it's not always so straightforward from the invoice how that invoice is to be allocated, etc., or certain instructions on the invoice. But having the email being pulled up means that you can, without having to go trailing back to the original source of the email, you can see right on the system any instructions that have been sent in with that invoice. There's also the opportunity with the option in DOKKA to clip documents together to split them up, and quite a lot of flexibility around it. Plus the AI built into it reads pretty much every single thing that's got text on a document. It's very powerful, and it's something that I haven't really experienced with any other AP systems.
Great. Tell me, what do you think sets if people were wanting to make a switch to DOKKA, what problems have arisen? How was the onboarding process for you? If you can take us through the transition period for you.
Well, I liken the transition period to an experience I've had this week, actually. I've just moved from Android to Apple, so I've done the conversion. And one thing I noticed that stuck out a lot from it was the customer experience I had with Apple, the way that the team there sort of led me through the journey, helped me come to move over and everything. And I think that's the sort of service I'd like, and what DOKKA's done for me is that the team have helped me, given me a proper demo on the software, show me all the features, taken a lot of time, invested a lot of time into giving that support, and also very contactable. It's easy just to contact, you know who you're talking to and everything, and the customer experience has been very, very good.
So, I mean, that's really interesting. I mean, a lot of people really require a good customer support team. And I remember having a conversation with you a long time ago where you were a bit unhappy about the customer success of some of the other products. So did you have any specific experiences, or was there anything that you didn't get from the other AP vendors that you tried or looked at in the past from a customer success point of view?
Yeah, there was obstacles in just like barriers to entry. So you had to commit to a certain number of licenses just to be able to come on board. And then you'd have to say, for example, you'd have to take on X number of licenses, and then once you went one above that, you'd suddenly have to double your subscription to double the number of licenses. But the reality of it is when you're building things up and taking on a software, you don't just jump from one band to the other, you slowly migrate over. And they weren't really very the way they had their subscription model set up wasn't very accommodating to that. So one thing that with DOKKA, where it's definitely a lot more accommodating for scaling and things like that, is where the subscription is based on the number of documents within the firm as a whole, rather than the number of licenses. So you can have as many companies as you want, and then you get a certain quota of documents within the number of companies. So it enables you to grow and build and scale up without having to suddenly jump onto a next package just like that.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, I guess we're trying to go the extra mile and try to be flexible. And I remember in the old days, like we had probably a similar model to many of the other AP providers. And I remember a client came to us and they had, it was an accounting company, they had about 200 companies, and each company, they were only processing about 4 or 5 documents for a month. And all the other companies were very inflexible in speaking to them. They were like, you pay per client. We don't care if you've got 5 documents or 5,000 documents, but you need to pay per client. And they didn't want to pay for hundreds of clients with literally a few documents overall a month. So I think what we've tried to do is we've tried to actually have a more flexible approach where we've really tried to actually keep in mind what are the needs of our clients and our customers and find solutions. And maybe that's why you've had the experience with our onboarding customer success, the way you've described it.
Yeah. So I think that just obviously highlights something else, that there are, well, as a customer, there are software vendors out there who listen to the needs of the shareholders and then basically go back and just throw it out there to the market. Whereas what I find with DOKKA is they listen to the needs of the customers and give the customers what they need. And ultimately, to me, for a software vendor to be successful, it's the customers that you need to listen to, which is what DOKKA's done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
sorry, carry on there.
Sorry, Justin. I mean, I just want to mention that you started off by, I guess, talking about Apple, and I agree with you. It's all about that experience. When I open up a new phone or a new Apple product, it is all about the experience. And the product obviously needs to work. It needs to be very good. It needs to do what you need to do. But it's not only about the product. It's about the overall experience. So I totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
It's what we can do for the clients at the end of the day. And just to highlight, you mentioned that, and Eric, as well, you mentioned about the amount of clients. I think also what was a big headache for a lot of people, that the other AP solutions were also charging per user. And with DOKKA, we've also realized that there could be an accounting firm with a lot of different bookkeepers and stuff. And to charge per user is also just not feasible a lot of the time if there's only a small amount of documents coming in for that client. So again, it's understanding the needs and the requirements and trying to be as flexible as possible to meet those needs.
Yeah, something else to add actually about, you asked me about the DOKKA features. You mentioned about having different users. So I think it's worth highlighting another feature which we found very useful with DOKKA is the chat feature. So often you've got, say, a certain invoice which a team member, maybe a more junior member of the team or someone who's not doesn't understand as much about what's going on, needs to query. And often that means taking a screenshot, sending it in a Slack or a Teams message, whichever internal communications you use. But it then can be inefficient because you then got to go back, you got to go into the system, find it, go back, and then they've got to go back and do it all. Whereas within DOKKA, you can do the chat function. It takes you straight onto the invoice in question. You reply to them with whatever information they need, and then they come back to it. It's all within that same document that they don't have to keep looking for it, going to other platforms. It's all sort of in one. It's quite useful.
I think that actually leads me to another question. Is I know that you're obviously very tech savvy and are familiar, as I said, with a lot of other AP automation platforms. But maybe you can just talk about how some of your colleagues that aren't as tech savvy as you have found the user face and have found just the usual, the basic system as a whole to get used to.
Well, first off, going back to the customer experience. So there's been a training with the team. So they've invested in training with the team. So the team get sort of to hear from a DOKKA ambassador, as it were, of how to use the system, get shown all the features so they're not missing out, they're not doing things inefficiently, etc. And generally the user interface is very good. So like the icons and things like that. So when, for example, if you look at the documents that are clipped together, it's got a paperclip icon, which kind of resembles then a physical stack of documents with a physical metal paperclip on it. So you kind of, and then if you cut in the document, the whole user interface and the icons used and everything makes it something that even if you're not as tech savvy, you can identify what each function is for.
Right. And again, I think I'll obviously highlight this when I run through the platform itself, but our main goal was to actually convert what we refer to as your physical workspace, which people used to do 5-10 years ago with stacks of paper on their desk. We've wanted to convert that experience into a digital workspace. So as you say, the linking of the documents, the sticky notes, we try to do everything that we can to make the user experience as simple as possible.
So I've actually got a question. I mean, a lot of the people on this webinar are accountants. They probably own accounting practices and use an AP software before, or if you're currently using like a vendor and you're looking to change over, there's so many different considerations. And you spoke already about the onboarding and the customer support side and the product side. So I mean, obviously, the elephant in the room is that one of the big AP vendors at the moment, which probably a lot of the accountants today are using, has just significantly raised prices. So is it purely a price consideration for accounting companies? Should you have some sort of checklist that you go through? How do you make these decisions to decide? And you spoke also about staff earlier, that you've got to re-educate staff and train your staff and possibly lose some of your staff because they have an old mindset. So what is your thought process as you went through this change over? Like, what were you looking for? Did you have a tick list? Did you have a SWOT analysis? Maybe guide us through that side.
Yeah, so to me, the pricing point really is that the value's got to be the value's got to be higher than the price. So that's first and foremost, and then the transparency. I think without sort of mentioning any individual alternative providers, as an accountant being involved within the accounting space in the UK and speaking to other accountants on a regular basis, what Mark picked out the frustration about other software vendors making just radical changes to their pricing was the completely lack of transparency. So people getting different deals, and also just being told on the spot, like, right, within very short notice, your pricing is going to go triple, 3 times, 4 times as much, because basically you've been on this ridiculously low pricing model, and these people haven't really prepared their businesses for that. They haven't necessarily got that sort of margin there for them to recover that on the other side. So I think if you were to summarize it into a few points, basically, the value's got to be higher than the price. The value that you're getting as a firm is got to be higher than the price. The pricing model needs to be easy for people to understand and transparent. And if there are any sort of adjustments to prices, there needs to be plenty notice so that people have a chance to adjust on the other side, that they can be making a margin and profit as a business.
So it's fascinating you're speaking about value. So you obviously had experience with other platforms in the past, and now using the DOKKA platform. And what quantitative data or metrics are you finding that actually demonstrate the benefits that DOKKA brought to your practice? So you spoke about the value, but have you got specifics about time saved or increased efficiency or cost savings? How do you measure this value that you're speaking about?
Currently we're a small team, so it's easier to see the benefits without having to sort of pull up a full Excel spreadsheet with the KPIs and everything. It's kind of a bit more of like a face-to-face discussion with the team. So firstly is staff morale, as it were. So there is nothing more frustrating than sitting staring at a screen where there's a little circle turning round and round and round because the system can't cope with the volume of data coming through. So that's one thing for certain, is that having a system which is easy, user interface is good, it's efficient, it works properly, quickly, and everything, that they can just keep the momentum up. That definitely has a good a good sort of feeling with the people using it. Then there's the time saved. Time saved has been also quite valuable as well. That we've been able to like go through the documents, link documents together, etc., spot duplicates, so we're not having to go through deleting duplicates afterwards and things like that, or having extra bits in the awaiting payment that you kind of having to spot. So it's got a bit more like a two-way integration. It spots whether there's invoices in Xero already, rather than just within its own system. So and just the general sort of, like I say, the user interface. So it's definitely brought a lot of benefits to the firm.
Right, I think we've got time maybe for 2 more questions. I know I've got one. So Justin, do you want to ask your final question? And then I'm going to maybe ask Izzy one last question.
Fantastic, good. Izzy, I know that working with many UK companies like yours, that they've experienced a number of challenges around recruitment and AP automation. I know we might have already touched on this, but again, if you can just elaborate on if you've experienced any of these challenges yourself and how AP automation has impacted this.
The challenge, sorry, just repeat the question again. Sorry. The challenges of AP
regarding recruitment and AP automation, and any challenges around that. Yeah,
sure. Recruitment at the moment in the UK, I think is the biggest challenge that every accountant's facing. And there's a few sides to it, really. Firstly is being an accountant in a firm that's not necessarily adopting new technology can be a not the most enjoyable place to work, to put it mildly. People don't necessarily appreciate the work that you're doing. You feel like you're kind of working a bit backwards and that. And the work is just unfulfilling. So I think to me to be on the forefront of recruitment, to be able to attract the right talent and everything, you need to be able to demonstrate to the candidates that you're a firm that's heading in the future, coming to you. They're going to be able to understand what it means to be an accountant in 2050, not in 2023, right? So they'll be able to prepare them that they'll have a long-standing career and adapt. There's also, I suppose, the big point that when you're recruiting, you have to think about selling the role to the candidate. It's not a point of telling the candidate what you want from them. You've got to think of it a bit like if you were selling your services to a new client, or trying to upsell to an existing client. You wouldn't go and tell your client all the demands that you've got from them with your payment terms and everything. You first off, you'd be telling them is what you can bring to their business, what you can offer them. So it's the same thing when you're trying to recruit for a candidate. You've got to show the candidate what you can bring for them, and then also, again, that's where the use of your AP automation system can come in as well, because you can demonstrate to the candidate what experience they're going to have working for you, how that AP automation system you're using is going to make their work life feel more fulfilled and easier, more seamless, but also prepare them for more of a long-term career, that they're using software which it enables them to future-proof themselves as an accountant for the future.
Right. Just one thing before Eric jumps into his question. I was on LinkedIn the other day and actually saw a post for an accounting company looking for a new person to join the team. And I actually found it quite surprising. It was good to see, obviously, from our side, that one of the requirements was experience in DOKKA. And it's funny to see how these types of requirements regarding AP and AI and stuff is now, again, like we said in the beginning, the way of the future. There's no more handwriting and the old style of accounting. It's AI, and it's what can AI and AP do to help different firms and employees.
So my final question is, if we segment the market, there's accountants and accounting companies that are using AI already or using AP automation, and there's accounting companies that aren't. And I think we've spoken quite a lot about the accounting companies that are currently already using some sort of AP automation, whether it's DOKKA or one of the other vendors in the market. But I really want you to maybe speak to the accountants that on the webinar today with us. And I wish we had actually done a poll in the beginning. We could have seen which ones are currently using some sort of AP automation, which aren't. But I really want you to give some thought process to the ones that aren't using any AP automation, because what really resonated with me is you start off by saying you had to re-educate some of your team and change your team. And it sounds like quite a big challenge if you're not using any AP automation to start using it, because it does sound like a digital transformation in a way. But on the other hand, from what we understand and we think, and it sounds like you may be in the same boat, it's crucial that accounting companies today adopt technology, because if they don't, they're going to be left behind. So the question I've got you, and maybe it was long-winded, but what advice would you give for accounting companies that aren't using any AP automation today in order to embrace this new way of working?
Well, the first thing I'd say, if you're an accountant not using AP automation at the moment, then you seriously need to question how much longer you've got in the game. The considerations to take with in the absence of an AP automation is think, well, what happens if your client got an investigation? How easily are you going to be able to go pick up those receipts, invoices, etc.? Are you keeping a paper file? I mean, think about how much space it's taking up in the office, rent. If you're obviously also think about the effect on the environment. You know, the number of trees that have to be cut down to make all that paper and everything. I mean, the list goes on, but it just, I mean, that's just to mention sort of rent. The two resources I mentioned there is you know, the effect on the environment and also the space on the premises, but also think about our biggest resource is time. Think how much time you're spending on keying in. If you're keying in, assuming you're keying in, I'm assuming no one on here is handwriting stuff, but keying in the data. Think about how that time can be better spent giving the client advice where they actually appreciate. My experience generally with the clients is I don't think any client really cares how the data gets into their accounting software. The key thing there for them is that the data within the accounting software is accurate, and that you've got time for them to be able to give them what they need, the service they need, and the advice. That's what's important for the clients.
This was a fascinating discussion. I'd really like you to stick around, because Justin's now going to do a quick demo of the platform for us, but we have about 4 or 5 minutes at the end for Q&A, and I really would like to ask the accountants and the bookkeepers and everyone else who's involved in the webinar today, if you've got questions for Izzy, put them into the Q&A, and once Justin's finished the actual demo in 10 minutes, then myself and Justin and Izzy can all answer the questions you have. So if you have any questions for Izzy about anything to do with accounting automation or AP, or about his business, or anything you'd like to ask, please put into the chat. And Izzy, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Good to spend time with you.